Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all participants. Can you hear me all?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. My name is Hee-Hun Lee. I am a manager from the National Information Society Agency of the Republic of Korea. And I am your tutor for government innovation using technologies in the post-COVID-19 era online course. So on behalf of our tutors and instructors, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to this Q&A session. I would like to thank you, all the participants, for taking the time to be here with us today. So the objective of this webinar is to answer your questions raised during the course. As you may aware, pre-collected questions which was on the course page will be answered by our instructors. And also we will open the floor to take more questions from you. So please note that this session has been operating via Zoom webinar and your video and audio will be technically deactivated. So from now on, I will introduce our instructors. It's my pleasure to instruct our instructors. We have Dr. Pilgi Hong, professor from Seoul District University, who are in charge of Module 1 and 3, and he will be a facilitator for today's session. And next, we have Byung-Jun Kim, professor of Kookmin University in Korea, and lastly, we have Dr. Tae-woo Nam. He is a professor of Sungkyunkwan University in Korea. I will briefly explain today's agenda here. We will cover the questions on the course page first, and then we will open the floor and to take more questions from you. So you can leave the questions on the Q&A on the Zoom, or you can put them in the chat box if you want. So if you have any questions regarding our course contents, you can ask a question to our instructor on the Q&A. And then if you have some questions and comments to the tutor, in case you need any assistance, such as technical barriers, you can put your message in the chat box. So from now on, I would like to introduce our moderator, Dr. Hong, and I will turn the session over to him. Please welcome him.
Okay, everybody. Thank you, Mrs. Lee. We have 60 minutes to go, and I will moderate these sessions, but each lecturers, each professors will answer your questions corresponding to their lectures, I guess. So from question 1 to 5, I am supposed to answer, and the next 5 questions, I guess, Professor Kim Byung-Jun will answer those questions. Following the questions, Professor Nam will answer the questions. So we will just proceed in this sequence. Then, if we have some time, we can open our discussion session. So I'll just hurry up. Question 1 from Mr. or Mrs. Octavia. How did the Korean government establish a paradigm shift to digital transformation and finally produce the digital world? These are very difficult, very comprehensive questions. So my answer will be the following. Given your technical, social, economic conditions, you must start from your practical, real conditions. In Korean case, we have a very solid digitized base, digitized foundation, so-called informatization. We just started informatization 2 decades ago, I guess 3 decades ago. Then we just moved from digitization to digitalization. In that process, government promote very aggressively through their e-government project. And then the industry like Samsung or LG, they just developed their own industrial bases. Also, citizens aggressively participated in digital trend. Then how did we do? How? Yeah, simple. We work very hard. Work hard. That's the simple answer. But we have a good visionaries, so-called strategists and policymakers. Given those good policies and strategies formulated by good visionaries, functionaries implemented or executed very effectively. To do that, we secured money, so-called budget, and competency through education. And also, we must have we also had governance, solid government, like the cooperation between government and agencies. So we have 3 key elements like government, business, and citizens, and we have good visionaries and functionaries. How can you do it? We did that way. We worked hard. Who worked hard? Visionaries, functionaries, specifically government, business, and citizens, including Professor Kim and Professor Nam. The academia, business, government, all the participants work very hard in cooperation with each other. That's my simple answer. Move to question 2. Yeah, we have a limited time, so I'll just give more time to Professor Kim and Professor Nam. Yeah, second question is, what kind of a long-term policy in Korea contain those vital deals, and how consistent the long-term policy? Yeah, this is a very comprehensive question. You don't have to follow exactly the same steps we have taken in Korea. You can take very useful lessons from these policies and cases. Simply put, my answer is we already had ICT policy, informatization policy, including e-government and digital government, which were designed to go together with industries and education, HR, human resources program. Without those industry, without those human resources, we cannot do anything. We couldn't have done anything. As you can see in the New Deal, who create business? Who create jobs? Industry and business create jobs. So the government and the private sector should cooperate with each other to create something, create value, which in turn creates jobs. And also, the society must continue to provide good human resources, good talents. So the education system also should be changed or adapted to produce a good quality digital resources. And in the long run, what kind of long-run policy? We must provide consistent policy framework, and we must provide consistent, stable budgetary support, fiscal support. And we must also provide good business rule and framework, and also finally provide good people. So we must educate young kids, and we must educate adults and public servants and everybody through lifelong education. In addition to traditional industry, we also had a 5G networks, 10 giga networks, and blockchain, AI, big data, sort of things, you name it. Korean government and business sectors and even universities, they try to produce something, products, service, and good students, good human resources. That's my simple answer to your question. So what is the long-term policy? What is the long-term? Long-term 5 years or 10 years? I guess I just, in my mind, I just assume 5 to 10 years. Move to question 3. Question 3, what is the percentage of the GDP that a state should deliver the digital transformation? Yeah, in our slide, in case of Korea, over 5 years, I guess, 44.8 trillion, approximately 45 trillion won. This is transformed into, this accounts of, I guess, 2 to 3% of GDP. As of 2020, Korean GDP is 1.63 trillion US dollars. So exchange rate around 1,100 or 1,200 per $1 US dollar. So 44.8 trillion dollar is 2 to 3% of annual GDP. So this for 44.8 trillion dollars is over 5 years. So it can be annually half a percent of GDP, I guess. Yeah, it's a simple question. So you can just go to IMF or some other statistical site so that you can just compare these numbers to the GDP and other numbers, especially compared to other countries. Move to next question 4. Question 4. To what extent the need for international organizations, regional organizations? Yeah, through this COVID pandemic, we realized that the need for international cooperation. But in this case, in this digital transformation or digital New Deal, as I mentioned in question 3, you don't have to follow exactly the same cases, some foreign cases, but technical standard and business rules and cyber security and ethical issues and some interoperability, compatibility, it would better be dealt with in the international organization. So I'm not an expert on these international issues or WHO stuff, COVID stuff, but at least from digital perspective, standard issue and security issue, information and data sharing, those can be discussed in the international organization. And also, other than those issues, each government agencies and private sectors can implement the strategies and policies, but in real international businesses, we can see some need for international organizations. But as I mentioned, I am not an expert on international issues, so I don't see a strong similarities to COVID issues. Which is related to the next questions. Anyway, we need some international organizations for technical standard, business rules, cyber issues, ethical issues. Is that too simple? Move to next one. Question 5. All right, this is related to the previous question 4. Once again, I'm not an expert on pandemic nor on international issues, but in terms of digital cooperation, as is in the answer to question 4, information sharing, also data sharing, will get more important in case of another the pandemic. So through the experience of this COVID-19, we can have more effective cooperation system in terms of technology, in terms of framework for information sharing, in terms of some international or global protocols for business trade and travelers. So at the global level, all these issues well established, all these issues will be or can be well established in the international organizations. So when COVID-19 first was discovered, even the WHO was a little bit shaky, but as time goes by, the WHO just get adapted to the new situations. So in anticipation of the possible new wave of this pandemic, we better be, I'm sure we must have a global principle, at least, for framework for those issues, information sharing and data sharing, and well-established global protocols and process and framework. So that is, I guess, is necessary and also indispensable in the future for global flourishment. That's my simple question answer to Ms. Fidelsi and Fidelsi. I'm sorry for poor pronunciation. Okay, this is the end of my answer to the question up to question 5. Then I will just turn to mic to Professor Kim for a very wonderful, nice answer to your questions. Professor Kim?
Thank you. Thank you for having me here for the great questions, but I try to make the reasonable answers, so that's why you can have some insight from the Korean experience. But not only this, my answer will be based on not only Korean experience, but also other world experience that I experienced before. So question number 6, in Korea, do you face or experience any resistance to digital change? Yes, definitely we have experienced that. Because in part of your question, because in a developing country like Pakistan, most of the people are not used to computers, so our country still facing the problem even in the urban area, which are considered as a developed area, especially in education sector, at government, schools, and colleges. It is very important and good question. Personally, I have experienced about almost 13 years ago, in 2007, we have the first international conference on digital government. At that time, I was as a very young scholar, and then how much important information technology on democratic participation, so-called online participation. But one of a group of public officials from the Nigeria, the country in Africa. The ladies, I think she's a public officer, she asked that exactly the same question. Your experience is from the developed country cases. That's why the internet penetration is way higher. And then exactly same mention, she said that we don't have any computer in our in my country. That's why it was a biggest challenge, how we can even think about the online participation. But right now we live in the in 2021. And those 13 years later, right now, mobile is a sort of a good computing devices. We can learn from how to computing skills through that. So that's why it will be a much better condition, because I had experience to visit. I had a chance to visit in Nigeria as recently 2020, right before the pandemic hit the world. I was in the Nigeria, Abuja. Then I quite shocked, because everybody has mobile device and then they access to the internet, and then they can enjoy the many digital services through that. But those are many of the services is not provided by the government. Even our course is focused on government innovation. So that's why our question is always focused on government. How much government has, individual government has a capacity to dealing with the digital public services. But luckily we see that there's a lot of domestically and then globally, there's a market is aggressively expanded their services user. Another name is tenants of their products. It will be the internet services. There's a mobile applications, or there's a lot of the services, online shopping or online banking. Those are in the beginning, they provide the service in free. That's why they try to increase the tenants. That tenants will be use those services and the products. That's why later, even there has a charge some of the user fee. They keep they already experience how much is convenient to use online services. That's why they are naturally learning how to do computer and computing. And even in the very light device like mobile computers. I think the computer right now doesn't have to be the PC or desktop or a notebook computer. It will be sooner or later, it will be more cheaper and more easy to handle. Carry the mobile device anywhere at any place. So I hope that this will be the if we can see the more transformations in the global level, we can see the overcoming these challenges. I think this right now slide is the question number 5, but I would like to go to the question number 7. Could you show the next page questions right now, and the next one, question 7? Yeah, thank you. The question 7 is, I would like to hear from our instructors their views on how might we address the issue that increasing digitalization could potentially reduce access to the services to major section of the population or to certain geographies, and thereby carrying the risk of the widening of the access gap in the short term. It is also a very good question and somehow connected with the previous questions. I would like to say that we are living in the sort of a platform-based digital economic world. In other words, we thought that the market itself, they try to provide some services to digitalize the services in terms of the platform idea, because many vendor developed some digital services, and then that services probably the service itself has a very increase of some value, but in the later. But how those services can exist, because how many tenants, in other words, how many consumers can use that? This is the market side of the example. So for example, like the mobile application is one of the example of the platforms services. Those services sometimes are very close to the services. That's why only the very user, for example, like you use the free WhatsApp or Telegram or all kind of social network services will be in the beginning is very free for any tenant or user. Then later people can stick on that services like that, like the mechanism in the market. Government innovation approaches should be like that. So it is not related to the probably we can say that we still have a challenge like any access gap, any geographical gaps or population. There's a marginalized population. They're not has trained capability to use information technology, but same mechanism, we should be make the innovative approach to make the government service, the government digital service also to bring and then reduce access any barriers to getting how we have to make the increase motivation when they use those digital services. Then we can they love to use, and that's why they can exist, and then they evolve more convenient way, more evolved services. So my answer is like that. But in short term, we should be getting some of the innovative approach in the market. So right now, I think rather than black and white view. It is market approach. This is a government approach. We should be very dialectic approach to getting some advantages, both sides of the approaches, and then make a new one. That will can be very good short-term, the solutions for the future. And the next question, please. Question number 8, I think. Nonetheless, thing is so focus on how the digital and the latest technology be implemented in society. I wonder how about the elderly in Korea. Yes, elderly in Korea is a very challenging issue. Are they having difficulty coping with the newest technology? Yes. My parents, they're late 70s and late 80s. They also has some difficulties to use the newest technology. Does the digital New Deal help them to have a better quality of life, or are they the ones who get left behind? We luckily in Korea, I found that there is quite lots of a good capacity building program provided by the local government or municipality or the non-profit organization funded by the Ministry of the Korea, ministry level of the support. One of them is a Seoul Digital Foundation. I found that Seoul Digital Foundation, they have a customized capacity building program to helping digitally marginalized groups. This is very customized. That's why some of the program is the elderly, for targeting for elderly. That's why they have a 101. Like sometimes the elderly people is not the group, like a classroom setting of the capacity building is very difficult to learn. So sometimes it have to be like the tutoring way to 101. So there's a quite innovative way to young adults or young youth. They are very expert. Like my daughters, I have 2 daughters. When they born, I still remember my youngest one. She saw that TV. She thought that TV is a touch screen. That's why she want to move the scene. So like we have a different generation, younger generation, quite a. It's a new digital technology is quite in nature. So that's why we matching is a 101. It's a youth and the elderly, they can learn each other. There's also quite good. And also even they has a help desk to some of a very a little bit advanced task to elderly want to learn. That's why they provided their learning opportunity. And also they have lots of event, and they have some of the more hands-on experience to provide some of the events. That's why this approach is really good approaches to expand it to, and digital, overcoming the digital literacy, and then particularly in the marginalized group. That will be not only elderly group, but also the handicapped group of peoples in the society. Next question, please. Question number 9. In the era of the disruption, the digital skill gaps is getting wider. Yes, I agree that. Between the younger and older generation. Yes, I mentioned just before. And it causes a divide in a job as well. Yes, what step does the Korean government take to encourage the older generation who are still in their productive ages to update their skill through digital capacity building? Yes, that's true. I mean, actually, I kind of mixed it with the my answer with the previous questions. Yes, there's lots of capacity building program, and then younger compared to the older generation might be has a longer time to use to learn how the newest technology. But once they learn, and then they can also try to getting a job, somehow use their techniques in the job field. For example, probably very productive the elderly, she or he want to getting a job in some of the field job. I know that some of them former teachers, she has a very good teachers. So, but she not familiar with some of the digital devices. But she learned from something like that I mentioned before, like a customized program for that, and how to using the devices to tutoring by online, because right now we're living in the post COVID pandemic era. So she tutoring to the younger children through the online tool, and then she teaching them. So my answer is we can more carefully customize and then design for some learning program targeting for the group, elderly group, they want to learn and then they want to utilize in the real field. Then they have a more motivated, their participation rate is much higher than we expected. So that's why how we can design well for the program is very important. This is my answer. And then I think the next question, question number 10 is the last one that I can answer. So question number 10 is appreciate if you can share some insight on how Korea build the culture of the digital innovation among the leaders in the government to nurture IT experts so that public and private sector work together in creating the government digital services to the people of the livelihood and welfare and well-being. This is a very big question and very good question too. As you know, that Professor Hong mentioned that how Korean governments has developed from the nothing right now so much developed than before. It is the fundamental thing is education. So, and then the miracle of the Korean development is so even the we don't have any plenty of the natural resource, but we thought that we have a very good human resource. That's why we are focused on to information technology industry, IT industry. So it is without any pre-existing any natural resource or something like that. Human resource can be the good fundamental resource to develop the IT industry. This right now we are so some of them leaders like a presidential level, like a former presidents, many presidents, they knew that how much important to digital innovation to the in the economic growth in the nation. So that's why they emphasize even we are late on the industrialization, but we are the fast learner and then the frontiers of the IT industry and IT and including the e-government, digital government. So right now, even we are moving forward to the artificial intelligence country. So we have AI government or intelligent government, and then also AI, many digitalized the economies. We are more focused on that. So that's why we are many new governments. Even next to government, I hope that they are emphasize the emerging IT expert, IT area, so they be nurturing the experts on that area, not only driven by the government approaches with the partnership with the private sector. As you know, that Korea has a Samsung or Kia and Hyundai. We have many world-class digital engineer right now. So the automobile industry is not only not the heavy industry. It is IT and AI industries. They have most of future car is unmanned vehicle. So that's why future mobilities will be one of a good target industry. That's why even after we are focused on the industrialization, those areas, people's livelihood, welfare, and well-being is a little bit better than right now. So I hope that other developed country and our neighbors country, we work together how we can focus on the nurturing our next generation's manpowers. So we emphasize education and how develop a more sophisticated training program to providing their met with their needs. So I hope this is an answer for your question. Thank you very much. I want to pass to the mic to the Professor Nam. Thank you.
Okay, this is Professor Theo Nam. Yeah, I'm very happy to participate in this discussion session. The question is about the foundation infrastructure that needs to be present or established in order to fully implement a digital transformation. Possible? Is it possible to fully implement a digital transformation if some parts or sectors are not yet fully established? My answer is yes, absolutely. But not entirely or a massive way impossible, but partially I think possible because developing countries can have the strategy to do some selection and concentration. You know, digital transformation has many areas: big cloud, big data, cloud system, AI, so many different targets and areas and scopes. So you can choose your levels and you can choose your scope, and then you can do with some cheaper costs, I think. Massively, it's not really possible or feasible, but implementable way is uh, selection and concentration. That can be possible way, I think. And the second question, I think, is will not be too risky to go ahead with digital transformation for majority of the sectors and make the rest catch up, even if some are not well prepared for it. Yes, it's very similar question, the previous one, but a little bit different nuance. Majority of sectors are not really prepared for digital transformation. In that case, others, I think the sectors depends on what kind of understanding of the sectors. But this question, some of the parts of this question is related to the previous questions that Professor Byung-Jun Kim already mentioned. For example, only small number of part of the people in the population in Korea are prepared for digital transformation or new change. So, you know, the people and bureaucrats, government, and any even private organization, they have a natural resistance to the innovative change. But that's why I think you said, Alberto said, that's risky. I think risky is that meaning. But always risk follows after the benefit. Oh, no, benefit follows after risk. So risk and benefit. So risk means we can have some benefit. So I think that is a very important value. And this is on the assumption that there is also existing digital transformation roadmap. It just so happened that the current pandemic is causing everything to scale up or to left behind. That's why I answer for your question with the reference of what Professor Byung-Jun Kim already mentioned, left behind. So some parts of the society or some business or some government organization may be left behind, or even the individuals. But the target of the strategy should be no one left behind. That's very important. Or now some prevailing word is inclusive society. That is very important notion. So that is kind of I think very important strategy for this. Okay, can you move to next question? About the New Deal and the creation of thousands of jobs, my question lies on what kind of jobs are going to be created? Wow, this is a very important question. Are these jobs only for qualified professionals on the field of ICT? Could you give an example of the jobs that could be related? Yes, in Korean New Deal, digital New Deal, jobs are honestly saying, jobs are not really much created as of now because digital New Deal is just started last year. I think it's still ongoing. But what kind of jobs could be made? For example, the big data industry, for example, not all people related to that industry are high-tech, super intelligent people. Think about the data industry. The many of people are data miners or data curators. So that kind of, I cannot say the lower labor jobs, but comparing to the high technology people, their jobs are very low labor people comparing to the high tech industry. So there are so many job creation, I think, so many opportunity for job creation. So now Korean, the digital New Deal can make the jobs, for example, data labeling. You know, there are so many visual data and the audio data. We can separate those data. So what kind of these kind of data clips can be named? What kind of label? So that is data labeler. That is new job actually. So new technology and new usage makes new jobs, new job creation. So that can be the new job creation, I think. Okay, next question. How is the reality of the implementation of the Korean New Deal policy so far? What is the policy going to be measured successful or not? Is there any impact assessment measurement? Impact assessment, no, not yet, because this is just happened last year, and we are monitoring very separately. For example, whole digital New Deal project is really big, national project. But for example, that project has some 4 or 5 big categories. And under these big categories, there are hundreds of big projects. So we monitoring those hundreds of projects. Who monitors, for example, the related ministry or ministers, they monitor the real impact of the society or the performance of that project annually. So that is kind of possibly possible way of measurement of impact assessment. And then this is very much methodological individualism. So we collect all those performance of the separate projects, and then we conglomerate all those performance, and that will be the whole national project's performance, I think, the Korean New Deal projects. Okay, I hope this answer is enough for your. Okay, that's it. This is already done. Okay. Okay, thank you. My part is done.
Okay, thank you, both Professors, Professor Kim and Professor Nam, for your wonderful and marvelous explanation and answers. Now we have to move to the floor, I guess, the cyber floor. I wonder if we have some questions, or wonder if somebody raises his hand. Can I see some questions? Mrs. Lee? Oh, Mr. Firdos. Do you have any question? Please feel free to leave. No.
Yeah, I think, yeah, already there's lots of questions in the chat room, and
yes, there are plenty of questions in the Q&A.
Wow.
Yeah, we have 19 questions. Yeah.
I don't know how we can answer for all those questions. So
Dr. Ho, is it possible to check the answers in Q&A?
Q&A? Okay.
Yes.
Can I put Q&A?
Oh, yes, you can just click.
Click Q&A?
Yes.
Okay. I see that the first one is there any toolkit for deployment of the digital technology in post-COVID-19 era? Well, I think there's no borderline in the digital space. So like deployment from the, probably we can overcome, yeah, but particular, we can develop the sort of a platform, like I mentioned, that there's as many platform in the open platform through many useful tools for the fighting against the COVID-19 sort of challenges. So Korea has many other tracking technologies, and also the health related to digital technologies, such as like the analyzing their fast detecting the COVID virus, what types of virus, something like that. So those are the tools I think the government, Korean government, want to share with the many developed countries. So those can be, I hope that maybe that will be connected to the second question. I'm wondering if there is any technology transfer mechanism defined for the country to another country for COVID-related technology on B2B or G2G level. Probably my answer will be also related to those questions. And I don't know, there are so many questions. Professor Hong, you want to answer
yes.
any of them?
Second question is, second question is, do we have any mechanism, transfer mechanism? I'm sure we have this mechanism, but on these particular cases of the COVID, we are too busy dealing with our COVID current issues. I don't think we have a definite transfer mechanism. But after we just deal with these issues, I'm sure we will have a transfer mechanism so that all the countries, all the participants, all the people can enjoy the benefit of this technology. So far, I'm not sure there is any transfer mechanism, but I'm sure after COVID-19 is fading away a little bit, I guess, then it will be, I'm sure. Yes, that's my answer. The first question is, what is this? Digital change, is this the question we had?
Yeah, I think there's some of the question already overlapping with what we answered before. Yes. And I don't know, we are time limitation, so we couldn't answer every question. So we probably selectively some of the answers. So how about this? Some of the question is not answered right now, but we also probably mislead, organized well, and then we will try to the short answer for each questions. Yes.
Okay, I will just pick up.
Yes.
The question from Mr. Abdul Rashid, how Korea is creating its organic agriculture New Deal and how the industrial waste is managed? Well, it's well managed. My simple answer is it's being well managed. So it's my answer. The next one is already Mr. Firdausi, to what extent is the same. The next one is, how is the reality of the implementation of Korean New Deal policy so far? Is the policy going to measure whether successful or not? We have a performance indicator, so we just monitor and check the performance of these policies. So we, of course, we have surely have an impact assessment measurement. If you ask some document, or if you search for homepage, you will be able to find these resources. Module 4, how can we measure the digital divide? Mr. How can we measure the digital divide in a specific country? We have lots of indicators. So we can go to a World Bank, UN, and some international organizations. I'm sure you will be able to find very various materials. Okay. What is our future expectation? This was answered. What's the main objectives of this course regarding digital money? Digital money, I'm sure we have not dealt with digital money specifically. So this is not our main objectives of digital money in this case. Is that right?
Okay, and I think that some of the participants are asking the question twice and then want to hear the answer that is related to flexible registration or regulatory sandbox to implement the digital policy, but specifically ask when and how to use those approaches. Probably when you, it is related to my lecture, that's why I would like to answer very short answer. we are in Korea. Korea has a little bit different registration system, so we are more positive regulation system. That's why we want to move from to positive way to the negative approaches. So that's why we want to more to free to more innovative idea to can be implemented. So more flexible approaches. So that's why we are in the middle of those changes. So when and how, personally, I think more flexible registration should be very early stage of the policy making. So that's why we can to more open to any new idea. But a registration sandbox, probably the already existing regulation is quite hinder to or make some hurdle to the implemented innovative idea. That cases we can choose those regulatory sandbox. But unfortunately, we don't have exactly regulatory impact assessments for each one of every single regulations. But we are partially use those approaches to assessment, especially when they regulatory sandbox committee try to when they choose which one is we can make a more like a flexible way to they can implement those ideas and programs. That time we can selectively doing that. I hope that is the answer for your questions.
Okay, it's a very wonderful, marvelous answer. Next question is, how was Korea sharing experience? Yes, you can contact, my simple answer is you can contact NIA, which is the professional agency, professional organizations for digital transformation. The next one is the same, how's Korea creating? The next one is common G2 collaboration for implementation of the project with Korea. Korea, they are funding mechanism of Korea where developing countries can benefit from. You can also ask this to NIA, and sometimes you can get some resources at the homepage of NIA or some KDI. So I'm sure you'll get a lot of resources about this one. The next one, how has Korean government managed to bridge the digital divide in terms of technology and skills between the rural and urban areas? Yeah, it's in a context of universal service fund and universal service and lots of policies and projects are developed to narrow the gaps, and especially through some infrastructure building and education and funding for specific groups like Professor Kim just explained, I guess. Can you explain? Yeah, yes.
And also there's a last question I can see in the Q&A. Those questions is say that your policy is supported by the legal framework of the Korean government. I do know that Korea is one of the country, I think the first country has e-government act in 2001. And then we have many legal framework to very detail, managing the details of each IT policy and e-government policies. But that's why I said that we are very detailed approaches to handle and managing, and then also even measure the performance of the each digital services. That's why sometimes we are challenging. We are not to accept the more very innovative ideas. So, but right now we are transition in the name of the Korean New Deals. We are more open to the new innovative idea. That's why we can catch up for newer ideas to implement into the real public services. So, and also there's a some question is quite how we can. Korea is a very developed country. How we can work with the developing countries. Yes, we are there's lots of opportunities to work with the developing countries. So even there is a very hard. Some of them is very soft. Knowledge is sharing, so there is some of the knowledge sharing consultation projects we call KSP project. We can have through you can learn from the Korean experience, and also there's many CoE some of the ODA fund, some of them grant programs, so we can support it financially without any strings or any issues. Some of them we can work with together to supporting some system and hardware. And also there is some of the Exim Bank in Korea, they have another support for that. And but not only the bilateral support, it's a multilateral support. Korea also one of the participants for the international organization to help the developed countries. So e-government is one of the very important area for the helping the developing country for public administration reform. So LIA is will be the good communication channel. You can ask them all kind of support, something like that. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we have 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes to go, so I'll just hurry up. New digital deal of Korea makes strategy any cyber tech? Yes, always, regardless of new deal or old deal, digital deal or industrial deal, cyber tech is well being prepared. Okay, I'm interested in sandbox resources. You couldn't just search the Korean sandbox, regulatory sandboxes. You can find the outline of the sandbox materials. And Professor Nam, I guess this is a student or ex-student of Professor Nam. So you can answer directly to this student and get more precise information about advancement different project in this information in Korea. Of course, on this one.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I cannot catch up the very fast pace because I'm seeing the monitor in my smartphone screen, so it's very small letters. DNA ecosystem, where on of the components is intelligent criminal analysis. Okay, I see. Intelligent criminal analysis. Okay. There are so many examples of smart policing based on big data analytics, especially for criminal analysis. But this is very detailed examples, so I cannot talk about these detailed examples. But I recommend you to visit Korean policy headquarters webpage. And then search word is smart policing. Smart policing is include the big data analytics used in terms of the criminal analysis. So that shows some very good examples about this.
Okay.
I recommend you to that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then next question was the status of the project. Yeah, well, most of the projects introduced in this presentation are ongoing projects, so they are well monitored and managed. So at the end of the session, probably they will provide more resources on the status of all those projects. And next, is digital transformation possible to be done quickly in countries where almost nothing hasn't been? That's the big question. So I don't think we can answer this question in such a period, short period of time. Is there any silver bullet? No, no silver bullet. We must find a solid infrastructure, good resources, and competency, governance. We must have all these elements for digital transformation. That is the simple and fundamental, the real answer, I guess. I think the last question of me is the
yes. I think there's some interesting question is when it comes to using the big data technology, my data control technologies can be one of the main issue. And I'd like to ask what can the key issue during the personal info exposure to the commercialize it? Yes, that's why we have a very strict newer actually, existing Korean law is very sensitive to using personal information to commercialize. That's why some of them is the online industry was quite difficult to in Korea. But recently, because of the developing of the newer technology, for example, like blockchain technology, or to more protecting in the technology side, we are using the more developed the secure technology to protecting the personal information. But at the same time, legally, we have make the pseudo identity to use or commercialize it. So that's why we make the happy the both. one citizen's side, they want to protect their personality and privacy, but also commercial side, business side, they want to make the more innovative industry. That's why we we meet the middle. So that's why newer legislation in Korea, some commercialized side, they can use fake ID, fake cases. I want to say pseudo identification of the individual information, but still they can have some of understand what's a big data analytics can understand the patterns of the customer or potential user of this from the citizen side. So same mechanism, government also developed some services in that way. So we are right now also that's I can say the digital transformation. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Firdaus, the last question was not answered. Yeah, the regulatory impact assessment. It's done in part. It's not always done, but usually in Korea, we just conduct regulatory impact analysis. But frankly speaking, we don't do all the regulatory impact analysis on every project or every policies. Next question is sharing experience. I answered. You can contact NIA. And the importance of leaders' position and awareness of digital transformation. Yes, of course, as I mentioned in the answer, visionary, the vision, the leaders with vision is very critical element of this digital something. And also the people who can execute and implement those visions are also important. So we must have both elements, visionaries and functionary. That's why we have to just move together at the higher level and the middle level, at the low level. So, of course, the importance of leaders' knowledge. The next question is issues. Digital divide is complex and miscarried. Yeah, it's a digital divide is not just does not arise from digital stuff. It arises from economic, social, education, and everything. So even though we just talk about digital divide, actually it deals with all the issues on division, economic, financial, knowledge, and physical, and everything, cultural, everything. So how Korean government, Pakistan government make joint ventures of grading? Yeah, the government cannot make, I guess, joint ventures. You must contact, or you must find a channel to contact the private sectors like Samsung, LG, or some other small and medium companies. Next, your policy is supported by the legal framework of Korean government. Yes, of course. Yes, of course. Without the legal framework, we don't do anything in the public sector. Thank you very much, Dr. Kim. After, can you please list some of the main challenges you facing the digital journey? Professor Kim.
Yes.
And Nam, can you list some challenges?
So that's why the Korean Ministry of the Education is much emphasized how we can do overcoming those educational gap, and not only for that because of their economic status of their parents, but also right now in pandemic era itself there's a lot of a gap between someone who has and who not has, because of the some of the parents, rich parents, they can take care of their children's online education in the pandemic era. But some of the parents have to work. The baby parents both are working the field. They don't care how their children they access the online education in their school. So these are getting more the wider in the era of the pandemic. But so that's why how we can overcoming it is not the simple way to technology can handle with that. So that's why this is other education policy and the government, many of the other policies work together to support it economically and also technologically, how we can overcoming that. So one of the some of them is higher education system in Korea. They try to providing not only the online services education program, but they also providing some devices and free for the lower income family, and also they services for the child care services for lower income family. That's why they want to reducing some of the gaps. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So finally, we have the last question from Mr. Daniel Pesham, I guess. This should be answered by Professor Nam. Are you ready? This is the last question. Yes. Professor
Who
Nam?
is this? Yes, I'm ready. Who is the central responsible body to monitor and manage all these various digital technology to ensure cybersecurity issues and resolve the existing digital technology manipulation gap? Who is, which means which organization is responsible for monitoring and managing cybersecurity issues? Korea has many public agencies. For example, KISA. I don't remember
Yes,
what
you're
KISA
right.
is abbreviated for. KISA is one representative organization to do these matters, cybersecurity issues, and also not manage cybersecurity policies, but also cybersecurity research organizations. So many organizations. So cybersecurity issues are very important. So one important thing is very important public agency is in charge of this matter. So Korean ministry is delegate that organization, that public agency has to do these all of the issues. That is very important thing. Okay, I think this is answer is enough. And the second question is, what mechanism the government employed to solve these issues of role of conflicting interest of among sectors over managing their digital technologies autonomously? Solve the issues of role conflicting interest of sectors. Autonomous. Okay, there are many committees actually. For example, very recently emerging committee of the government organization is the Fourth Industrial Revolution Committee. That organization controls between the matters or conflicting issues between the private sector and the public sector. And also there are many committees. For example, Privacy Information Committee. There is a very important control committee, mediating committee. There are so many committee organizations because one independent ministry cannot solve this kind of conflicting issues because one ministry manage or do over one independent sector or one independent industry. So we need this kind of committee organizations. So I think that is answer for your question. Okay.
Okay. So we just last one more. Okay.
Well, what do you think the perception of Korean on the new emerging technology regarding privacy complex? Yeah, definitely. I think we are many ordinary citizens are concerned about the privacy and complexity. So that's why Professor Nam mentioned that we have a personal information protection commissions, very careful about how personal information dealing with in the public sector, in not only public sector, in the private sector. That's why they have a very strict rules and the body of the government to controlling that. So, but at the same time, Korea, as you know, that Korea is one of the testing bed in the world. Many citizens are quite open to any new technologies. They are willing to use that. So that's why we have a very complex situation, I think. Right, Professor Nam?
Yes.
Professor, yeah, right. So we have some of them is very open, some of them is very careful, some of them, yes.
Yeah, this is the issue of perceptions. So everyone has his own perception. Right. So thank you for your answers, Professor Nam and Kim. And it's almost time's up, so we have to wrap it up now. And we just have 60 minutes, but we answered all the questions and explained every issue suggested by all the participants. And even though we just did it very in simple format, many information from Professor Nam and Kim just provide, and we just have a valuable time together. I guess every participant in this session will enjoy and benefit from this valuable time. Thank you, everybody, and have a good day or have a good weekend. Can I to NIA or just to finish up here?
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Hong, Dr. Kim, and Dr. Nam for your participation in the Q&A session. And thank you very much to the participants who asked some questions you raised during the course. So this is the end of the session for today we prepared, and hope you have a great rest of your day and then have a great weekend. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.